Hi everybody, it's Stephen Brook and welcome to Architectural Photography and Composition. Last month I had 3 projects, residential projects that I had to photograph, and there wasn't a stick of furniture in any of them. And that's a real challenge. And I thought, okay, like the construction photography that we talked about last time, where I was encouraging you to consider that as an opportunity to do creative work, this is another opportunity, but I thought there are some aspects to photographing these kinds of projects that I thought this is worth going over. And I think this is a serious issue for architectural photographers, because this can and will be an issue you're going to have to deal with your client at some point or another. And there are ways to make even these challenging spaces an opportunity for creative thinking and some artistic problem solving. So why would this even happen? Well, there are a couple of reasons. One, real estate projects that haven't been staged but still need photography. Maybe they're about to be sold and the realtor doesn't want to spend the money, which is usually considerable, to stage it, but still wants photographs. You have to take those and the rooms are empty. Another one is for commercial projects where the photography may be prohibited after the furnishings and after the artwork is already in there and the space is occupied. And this is typical for offices, banks, very often hospitals. Once they're set up, they're not going to let you back in there. And government facilities, that's the same thing. They'll let you shoot when there's nobody there, but once things are in, you don't get to go in there again. And I've had this happen more than once, where an architect has done a great job on the project. They've gotten to do everything that they want, but they know that the furniture that's coming in is absolutely wrong for their project, and they would like you to come in and photograph the house or whatever before the furniture comes in. So, and lastly, for all kinds of reasons, client issues, legal issues, what have you, there may be only one chance that you get to photograph a project, and that's before any furniture comes in. So let's look at what you need to think about if you're faced with this kind of project. We're going to look at some things we've talked about before, but in a different way. One is axial orientation for order and clarity. A low camera height to minimize the empty floors, showing the exterior views, letting the light come in, featuring the architectural subject matter, and then shooting at night is another way. And then we're going to talk about what you can add post-production to these empty rooms that might help make it a little bit more attractive for your client. So let's start right away with axial orientation and a low camera height to de-emphasize the floor. We've looked at Peter Sonderdam's work before. He does these beautiful paintings of interior churches. There are a few random people here, but there's nothing on the floor. There's no furniture. Here are 3 more of them. This is these 3 cathedral views. Low camera height. This de-emphasizes the floor. And again, there's no furniture here. He's on axis to organize his picture plane. So, okay, this is not exactly a cathedral, unless you really love baseball like I do. And this is a training facility. There's nothing in here, but I have a low camera. This is a pretty wide angle lens, so I have a low camera height and to de-emphasize the floor and this empty space. But note, in this floor, I have burned the bottom about 1/3 of the way so that you go from dark to light to move your eye further into the space. Now, as for this little view out here, the view is not much, so I don't want to emphasize it, but I don't want to block this up because it's a little bit of relief from this kind of industrial looking space. So what I've done is I borrowed ideas from Monet: soft edges, a muted palette, minimal contrast, high key, bright tonality, and I've done that with the view so that it just sits on the wall and is not obtrusive, but still gives a little relief to the overall image. And here are a couple of other ones. This is at the Sisters of Zion Chapel in Jerusalem. Here's the step. My camera is only about maybe 18, 20 inches off the ground to reduce the effect of the floor and to still have a nice overhead. And here at the Price Smart warehouse for Forbes Architects, there's nothing in here but the shelving. And again, I'm thinking about Mondrian and how he organizes his picture plane with just rectilinear elements. And so I've done that with the warehouse. Again, there's no furniture here. Number two, and this is really important, we look at Edward Hopper and the prominence of the view. And we've seen this with Caspar David Friedrich in his Wanderer Among the Mist. We're not even caring about what this guy looks like, but we're invited to see the overall view through his eyes. And with Hopper, even with people and furniture in the paintings, Hopper directs your eye and the eye of his subjects to the view, looking out towards the view. So for real estate photography, very often the view is the selling point. So this is Stephen Fett Architect's little house in Coconut Grove. No furniture, but I'm showing the views that you can see the street, you can see the garden, and over here in one of the bedrooms it overlooks the church to give a sense of what the space is about. Here in a house by Giselle Cogiel, the view to the garden and the view to the pool, this is a main design feature in this living room, and you don't need the furniture to tell this story. Edward Hopper, again, uses light as an animating element. And if you'll notice in Hopper's paintings, he has tone and detail and texture even in the brightest areas, and he gives these shafts of light, all visual, kind of visual masks, and they have this animating essence. And in these paintings, furniture would only detract from this ethereal effect that he's trying to create. So what I suggest, if you have interiors where you have no furniture at all, think about using the light to help make your image something wonderful. Let it pour into your space, but pick a time when the light beams and the shadows are compositional, and you're going to have to pre-visualize the need for post-production layering so you don't have burned out areas and burned out views. That would defeat the purpose. If you look at this one by Curry and Penabad Architects, if you look at just the light and the view out, it's almost a sculptural element within the frame. And I've tightened this shot up. I don't need to see any more floor, but the key aspect to this room is in fact this view out. And here's another one. The light leads you down the hallway. And the repeating elements, like we talked about once before, what you need to do to create a sense of depth. If you have repetitive elements, it draws the eye further. So here, without any furniture, I've got light pouring in, picking up on the wall, carrying the reflections, the shadows carrying me down, and I have this view out. And you get a sense of where this building is right in downtown Miami. Also, emphasize the architectural details. You have no furniture, you need to rely on something else. So axial compositions, again, are the clearest way to depict the relationships of each of these design elements. Now, here I have all three things working in this shot. I've got light coming in, creating geometric patterns. And note, I've got them angling towards, they're not angling out this way, they're coming into the picture to keep your eye on the picture plane. I'm showing a view to the garden and the pool, and I'm emphasizing the architectural framework, and I'm doing that by keeping this an axial composition. Here's another one just like that. The light is coming in, it's breaking up the run of concrete here. I'm showing a view to the garden, and I'm also emphasizing not just the architectural framework, but also the materials here. Another way you can handle shooting rooms where you have no furniture is to do the photography in the evening. Now, in this case, in this kitchen, the light reflections are breaking up this empty plane of the floor. So it goes from light to dark to light to dark, carrying me all the way through to the end. And it gives a floor its own rhythm and its own form. And when you're doing these kinds of really pure architectural photographs, where you're showing space and proportion and volume, you don't need furniture to do that. These are pretty pure architectural photos. The furniture sometimes will get in the way. Here's again, an axial composition. Note in this case, the blue light from the evening shots gives depth to the image, because we talked about this before. Blues tend to recede from your eye. The warmer tones, reds and yellows, tend to advance to the eye, which gives you a color impressed sense of depth. Now, there are a couple of things you can do post-production, but you have to check with your client. They may or may not want you to do this, but know that these options are now available. If you think of this empty room, think of it in terms of an art gallery. Art galleries, art on the wall. Rarely is there any furniture. There may be a bench, there may be a couple of chairs where you can sit and look at the artwork, but generally these are not furnished spaces. So I have a video on your digital art gallery and a technique, a workflow to add artwork to your photographs, how you can select, put it in, scale it, frame it. So what I'm suggesting is you can do that for these views. This is a house that Elisa Block did, that she brought me in to photograph before the owners. This is one of those where the owners were not going to bring in furniture that she liked. So we came in ahead of time, and I talked with her about this. So I added artwork as if this were a museum situation. Now, for each of these pieces, I put a stroke around the artwork, and then I added a drop shadow in the direction that the light is coming to give it some believability. Now, you can add a single piece of furniture sometimes, and in this case I put one at the end of the hallway here because otherwise this would not have been of interest. But the furniture, the style of the furniture has to be in keeping with the style of the architecture. For something like this, for Giselle's house, you put some really old-fashioned piece of furniture in there, probably is not going to look so good. She probably isn't going to like it. And the other thing that you can do, and this is much more complicated, you can add a whole room of furniture. But even with the most current AI generative fill, this can be a real trial and error process. What I've done here, this is my view of Giselle's room. Because this was a decidedly modernist architectural design, in my prompt, I prompted for the addition of classic modern furniture. And I was really specific. I wanted pieces by Florence Knoll, by Eros Saarinen, by Mies van der Rohe, by Le Corbusier, and that's what I got in here. And it didn't lay them in exactly as I would have. The chair probably should have been turned this way. But all in all, as opposed to this, which I find is just fine for what we're doing. But if you needed to have furniture in there, you can do this. But again, it's a trial and error process, and you have to be really specific about the prompt and what kind of furniture you want in, and it may take more than one or two tries to get it like that. So when you're faced with this kind of situation, as I said with the construction, don't give it up and think, okay, this is a throwaway job. There are no throwaway jobs. You can do wonderful photography for almost any kind of situation if you think about all of the art historical background that can inform your work, even something like this. So axial orientation, low camera height, showing views, letting the light pour in, focusing on the architectural subject matter and shooting at night. And you can add artwork, you can add a single piece of furniture, or again with trial and error, you can add maybe a whole room of furniture. So I hope this is going to be helpful. If you think it is, give it a thumbs up, and by all means subscribe to the channel. We just hit 20,000 subscribers, and I'm grateful for this kind of support. Obviously you're telling your friends about this, and we're going to keep the site free. This is my intention. But when you subscribe, the YouTube algorithms look it over, and the ads that get placed are better ads. And again, I know you don't like the ads, but they help support the site, so you don't have to pay to support the site. If you're looking for a book to help you with your architectural photography, check out StephenBrookPhotography.com. Check out my book on architectural photography and composition. Check out the reviews. People who have this book absolutely love it. They find it incredibly helpful for what they're trying to do. Now, I also have it available in print form from Amazon. Be sure to order the second edition. We've added some things. We've taken some things out that are no longer relevant. And if you do purchase it from Amazon, I know you're going to like the book. Take a few seconds and write a review. Give it some give it 5 stars, because that will help with the sales. And again, it's going to help support the book and the site. If you would rather do this in a course form, I know a lot of you like that. I do have a course on Udemy, Fundamentals of Architectural Photography and Composition. Again, this is very well received. People really like it, and if you like that style of learning, I'm with you on every step of the way. Here's a guarantee. You finish this course, I guarantee you will photograph, you will do professional quality architectural photographs that you can show anybody. If you're starting out in business, or you're just starting to get it cranked up a little bit, check out Mastering the Business of Architectural Photography. We have a 4.9 course rating on Udemy. People who have this course just love it. If you need some assistance in how to set up your website, how to set up methods to contact clients when you don't have any clients, how to do a portfolio, this course has all of that information in it, and it's up to date. There's suggestions for how to deal with clients, how to prep your clients for your jobs. Again, like the book, it has everything you're going to need. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.